Yusuke Yatsuya hates his life and his normal school life. He even hates Tokyo, the place he lives in. Only video games are his only love. One day, while staying back after class because he is on cleaning duties, he suddenly experiences some weird poltergeist phenomenon, and before he knows it, he is transported to another world. He recognizes his classmates before him, Yu Shindu and Kyusu Hakazaki. They are thrilled to get a guy this time. The game master shows up and quickly tells them their next quest is to fulfill the village chief's request in 14 days. For each quest they complete, they will gain one new member until they have 10 members to complete the final quest. As Shindu is a wind wizard and Hakazaki is a sword warrior, the game master spins the wheel to select Yatsuya's occupation, farmer. The girls explain about this world, but Yatsuya is still puzzled if this is all real or just a game. They stumble into goblins, but being a farmer, Yatsuya's farming tool breaks. Shindu's wind is too weak, but Hakazaki, being the meek girl she is too scared. Yatsuya discovers that, despite the fact that he can die, he will revive 30 seconds later. He uses this tactic until he kills the goblin. However, after that, as Shindu points out, if all the members die and none are alive at any moment, the entire team dies for real. As they camp out, Yatsuya asks for the reward for completing each quest that the game master said. It is to ask him a question, but so far, for the questions they asked him, he has given very vague answers. Later that night, they were attacked by a giant troll. Hakazaki is half-eaten, and Shindu just got swallowed. Yatsuya knows he can't take on that thing and takes Hakazaki to run. The next morning, Hakazaki's left hand wasn't healed because it got eaten. If they don't rescue Shindu, she'll be dead for real. They head to the village, and the chief's request is for them to take down that troll. Yatsuya thinks he is the only one who can do this alone and goes to level up himself, but he tells Hakazaki straight that helping will only get in his way. Hakazaki feels sad because it looks like Yatsuya is the kind of player who abandons his comrades to die while he goes to take all the glory. Yatsuya heads into the forest to look for goblins and raise his level. He finds a log point and sees the girls talking about who their third member would be and who they like. Yatsuya is surprised to learn that Shindo spoke of him, but he sneezes and stops the log point, making him unable to see the end. He finds a spot from which he can see the village and is reminded of his past. He sees some goblins nearby. After beating them and raising his rank to 9, he gets a notification about Kyusu Hakazaki dying and sees the village is burning. He returns to the village, but sees that Hakazaki isn't reviving and realizes she must be eaten. Yatsuya sees another log point and checks it. He sees Hakazaki practicing with her sword and explaining to a kid that in her world she is sick and can't exercise, but here she wants to get strong and help, and not just be a burden to everyone. He then sees the troll attacking and how Hakazaki stays behind to slow it while the villagers escape, but ends up being eaten. The troll then appears, and Yatsuya starts to run. He successfully manages to dodge his attacks, but eventually the troll starts to catch up to him. He sees an injured goblin that managed to escape him before and kills him, raising his rank to 10. The time then stops, and the game master appears. He spins the roulette, allowing him to pick another job, but ends up getting another rare job, chef. Yatsuya is disappointed, but is glad he has a knife now. Looking at the troll, due to his new job, he gains internal knowledge of the troll. The time resumes, but using his knowledge, he attacks the troll's stomach and opens it up, causing Shindo and Hakazaki to be able to revive. Having figured out the troll's jumping pattern and making him tired from all the jumping, the group engages him, but they keep dying over and over. Looking at the troll's stomach wound, Yatsuya comes up with a plan, charges into the hole, and stabs the troll from the inside. That prevents the troll from moving for a moment and gives Shindo time to get on its back, blow wind directly into the troll's head, and kill it. The game master appears and congratulates them. Shindo is disappointed. Her rank went from 3 to 5, while Hakazaki went from 1 to 4, yet Yatsuya's chef rank went from 1 to 5. Yatsuya gets to ask the game master a question. After some thinking, he asks what they will do after they clear the 10th quest. The game master shows them a bit of the future, where they prepare to face a large dragon. The next moment, they all wake up in the normal world. Shindo then heads out for her practice and asks Yatsuya to get Hakazaki home. As they walk with Hakazaki and reach the station, he sees the building on which the dragon appeared and realizes that if he abandons his quest, the city he hates so much will be destroyed. On his way home, Yotsuya gets a call from Game Master about his next escort mission. He leads him to a nearby girls' toilet. He sees a few girls trying to bully and film another. The first thing Yotsuya does is break all their cell phones. This freaks the bullies out so much that they run away while threatening to call the cops. After flushing evidence down the toilet, Yotsuya escorts Yuka Takate home. Yotsuya thinks his bravery will land him this girl as his girlfriend, while Takate thinks he is creepy and hopes he bugs off. Then she reveals why she was being bullied. Perhaps it was something she shouldn't have said. About a girl who puts up a nice act with boys, and the bullies thought she was talking about them, despite Takate's failure to even mention any names. Then she recommends him a reverse harem game, since what he did then looked familiar to the actions of the protagonist of that game. And so Yotsuya wasted 2 weeks of his life. Then he and the usual gang get summoned to the game world. As expected, Takate is there, and like any newbie, she is confused. Game Master spins the wheel, and she will be a heat wizard. Their revival time will also be 10 seconds longer. Takate was a bit crude in her explanation about Yotsuya, essentially painting him a perverted stalker. Now the rest keep their distance. But later, she tells the whole truth to Shindu, and to her surprise, Shindu believes her. Shindu explains how she prevented herself from being bullied. Takate is so impressed at how strong she is. After that, the gang fights off a giant centipede that throws pillbugs that stick to your face like those alien face huggers. Takate thought it's her time to show off being a wizard, but her low level means she runs out of power fast and gets killed. In the end, it is Yotsuya who helps guide Hakozaki to use her sword to kill the monsters. We see Shindu's flashback of being a tomboy when she was young, beating up kids who talk bad about her. She befriends a high school girl named Sayuri and treats her like her big sister. Unfortunately, she died. Worse, she overheard their fathers talking badly about Sayuri being ugly, and they even hint Shindu was prettier. They claim having an ugly face makes you end up dead. So Shindu wakes up from this nightmare. Yotsuya was still awake during his training. Suddenly, Shindu pleads with him to save her. Shindu further narrates that Sayuri killed herself by jumping off a building. It seems she was a victim of bullying too. Shindu's turn came soon, but luckily she had friends to help her. That's when she learned that friends are her strength, and that she herself is responsible for changing her own world so that she wouldn't end up like Sayuri. That's why when she first came to this world, she was scared because she was stripped of everything. She pleads for Yotsuya's help to save her. Their next quest will have them go to Rodero, a town located at the edge of the western continent. It'll take the fastest month for them to get there. Nobody can spare them any horses, but luckily, there's a martial arts tournament in which horses are the grand prize. As they practice, they are ambushed by bandits, but they are humans, they cannot attack them, and will have their experience points reduced. They retreat, but realize Shindu isn't with them. She could be captured. But that is when Yotsuya thinks that they should continue with their mission because only one of them is needed to clear the quest. The girls don't like it, even if Yotsuya claims this is his way of helping Shindu. So it is decided that Yotsuya will go to the tournament while the girls rescue Shindu. Unfortunately, the girls get captured too. Yotsuya trains hard until he levels up. He ranks up to an animal wizard, but his stats are still low. In the tournament, Yotsuya loses in the first round, in 5 seconds, to a female knight named Koval. Yotsuya tries to get her to help by lending horses, but it seems he needs to help with some work, by taking out the bandits. Before that, Koval trains Yotsuya with the sword, but he still sucks. The knights ambush the bandits' hideout. The knights are superior, so they release a berserker to go berserk. Koval relishes fighting it because she loves cutting things up. That's why she became a knight instead of a housewife. But still, she is no match for berserker. Yotsuya uses his animal prowess to distract it, but gets killed off in one blow. But this is enough for Koval to slice off his head. Yotsuya's girls are rescued, and despite losing the tournament, Koval has a proposal. She and some of her men will escort them to Rodero, but in return, they must give them their horse upon arrival, and she wants to sword train all of them. Hakozaki narrates how she isn't good at sports, and because she wanted to help find a medicine to cure her ailing mom, she tried to study medicine. She promised to study hard to get a scholarship since her parents couldn't even afford it. But playing this game changed her, especially the massacre of the bandits. Her basic prerequisites for living have changed completely since then. Instead of saving lives, she has to kill herself to keep herself alive. She tries to look at the positive side of being trapped in this game system. The first thing she does is level. By that, she means practicing with Koval. When goblins attack, it's your standard massacre affair. But Hakazaki makes her first bloody kill and goes into shock. She's apologizing to the goblin she killed. Then, after hearing Koval's twisted story about why she likes to cut flesh, Hakazaki realizes the need for her to do the same if she's going to survive. While continuing their travel, they spot, from a distance, a traveling group being attacked by kobolds. Normally, they don't want to waste time, as they need to hurry to Rodero. However, Hakazaki insists she can't leave someone in need. There'd be no point if she abandoned someone. Yotsuya snickers at her weird comment, but realizes Game Master could be watching, and that caravan might be traveling to Rodero. It could be some event. He suggests splitting up the group. The rest continue to Rodero while Yotsuya and Hakazaki go fight the kobolds. Too bad the kobolds are stronger and outnumber them, and Hakazaki instantly dies. Yotsuya tries some tricks, but they're ineffective, and he too dies. During the respawning, Hakazaki has thought a lot. This time, she is trickier. Provoking a kobold to get close enough, she summons her heavy sword to stab it. Yotsuya also gets tricky, luring one towards Koval to let her cut some meat. In the aftermath, the group learns they are actually heading to Rodero. However, these are heretics who are to be hung at Rodero. As they reel from the shock, they realize that these heretics might be the goods that need to be delivered as part of the quest. Hence the dilemma: if they take them there, they will be killed. Koval and Vice Corporal Camilto from the Kingdom of Diok quickly get on each other's nerves, but Shindo manages to calm them. The heroes discuss the situation, and Yotsuya explains that if they lead them and let them be executed, it may look like they are harming humans and failing the quest. The group decides to keep heading towards Rodero and will later decide if they should save the prisoners or not. When they take a break for the night, Yotsuya requests to speak with one of the prisoners, Fafsel, a missionary. The man explains that he hopes at least the kid, the Lily, will live. He explains that the Kingdom of Diok is divided by citizens who worship the king and citizens who worship both the god and the king. A conflict arose, and it continued for a long time, leading to the prohibition of the religion and the execution of its believers. Yotsuya then asks Camilto why they are going to Rodero to execute them. Camilto explains that those people came from the continent of Italy, and they want to stop others from coming. And since Rodero is the gateway to this continent, they want to set an example there to prevent people from spreading on the continent. Camilto explains that King Diok V didn't abandon the veteran soldiers and war orphans, gave them slaves, and will continue to conquer to unify the continent and help its people. Takatate doesn't see that as a good king and states she dislikes dictatorship, which is like bullying. Camilto gets angry. However, Yotsuya manages to calm him down. They reach a mountain, and Camilto explains that it will take them 7 days to cross it, but there is a shortcut. They decide to use it and enter the mountain, which has a big mechanism. While waiting to activate it, Camilto betrays them and closes the door behind them, leaving them no choice but to continue the newly opened path. On the way, they see large swinging hammers on the pathway, and Yotsuya sees some pillars. Checking the symbols, he figures them out and rotates the pillars, causing the hammers to stop, allowing them to cross safely. Next ahead, there is a path with a wall on the side. However, Yotsuya gets careless, and the wall pushes him down a hole. He tells the rest to continue while he tries to find a way out on his own. Hakazaki manages to figure out how the wall-pushing mechanism works and their timings, and they manage to cross. The group reaches the middle of the mountain and sees a larger arena-like place. They see monsters on the wall on the other side, and Koval recognizes them as gargoyles, man-made monsters that, if mummified by removing their body fluids, will allow them to move even after thousands of years. One of them then gets fluids injected into it and reactivates. Using his knife, Yotsuya carves holes into the walls and starts climbing. He falls a dozen times, and, while climbing, recalls his time when he transferred to a new school and how lonely he was. Eventually, he manages to climb up. Continuing on the path, he sees a log point, and checking it, he sees the group saying their farewells to the now deceased warrior Bimsberg. He finds Bimsberg's body and recalls some moments he had with him, like pushing the cart and eating together. He says his farewells and continues on the path. Meanwhile, the group fights off some vampire bats and faces the gargoyle. They see a key on its arm and realize they need it to continue. Shindo easily hits the flying bats, and Koval congratulates her on her skills, with Shindo explaining that it is due to the tennis sport she is playing. The gargoyle pierces Koval, and she falls off the platform into the water. The gargoyle then turns his eyes on Shindo, and as she steps back in fear, she steps and kills a bat, which levels her up to rank 10. The game master pauses the game, congratulates her on reaching rank 10, and allows her to switch jobs. Shindo recalls what Yotsuya said, that as the game freezes and until the game master restarts it, you get a few seconds where you can get closer to your enemy. As she gets the warrior sword job before the game restarts, she rushes at the gargoyle and manages to hit him, but is unable to cut him. The gargoyle hits her back and almost causes her to fall off the platform. Shindo sees a cut on the gargoyle and realizes Koval made it. She recalls her training and how she should aim at locations that can cause fatal wounds or instant death. Facing it, the gargoyle cuts her hand that holds the sword, but Shindo manages to get on his back and grab her arm with the sword and pierce his heart from the neck. Yotsuya finally reaches the group and sees that they have defeated a gargoyle. He learns about Koval and immediately jumps into the water to save her, later healing her wound, continuously using the gargoyle's blood to regain MP. Koval later wakes up and learns what happened. Yotsuya has passed out since then and is still sleeping. She decides to kiss him, but the other girls end up seeing her. Koval wonders if any of the girls have claimed him, but they all decline. Koval explains that he reminds her of herself as he tries to find himself and what he is capable of. She also explains they have rank numbers in her country, and her rank is 70th, while her brothers and father are in the 20s, and she feels average. The main reason she is on the journey with them is because she wants to cut some flesh, although her father told her that one real battle equals 10,000 practice swings, which she perceives as her father telling her to cut living flesh. Yotsuya finally wakes up and states that he got it all wrong. He explains that their third quest was to fulfill the village chief request, but it didn't specify which village and which chief, so any village and chief were fine. Shindo's first quest was to defeat a goblin, no matter what or which, and his second was to find 2 settlements, again not specifying any particular ones. Yotsuya then believes anything you can specify as goods will count toward completing their quest. And with the prisoners, no one is expecting them to come, so they are not really delivering them to someone, so he doesn't believe they are the goods. Despite the comments, they still may be considered, and he wonders what they should do. Yotsuya decides they need to split up. Yotsuya, Takatate, and Koval will follow Kamilto and save the prisoners, while Shindu and Hakazaki will continue their journey and search for any other cargo bound for Rodero. Koval gives an important piece of information. Before Kamilto trapped them, she saw them sending chicken messengers. It is most probably to protect their own asses, as the message could contain information about trapping the enemy heroes. In the event if they got free from the trap and killed them, this might spark a war between nations. While Yotsuya's idea is to write a letter to convince the kingdom otherwise, he wants a more devilish plan to make Kamilto pay for killing one of his men. Somehow, they manage to catch up with Kamilto's group. While they are camping at night, Yotsuya surprises them by showing his face. Aside from Takatate, he claims the others died. Also, Yotsuya has converted to that religion and wants to strike a deal for the prisoners to be released, or he'll use his immortality to spread the religion. Kamilto calls his bluff because, in both instances, Yotsuya is free to spread the religion. However, Yotsuya gives them until tomorrow to decide. Shortly after, Takatate returns to Kamilto and claims she isn't on good terms with Yotsuya and wants to get back at him. Kamilto is suspicious because this may be a trap to save the prisoners. As proof, she will lead him to where Yotsuya is sleeping. Kamilto remains cautious, so he has a soldier stay back to guard the prisoners. He then follows Takatate and after a while kills her. He brings her back as a prisoner, but to his surprise, Yotsuya has killed all the prisoners and then set fire to all their belongings. Yotsuya claims he lied about becoming that religion, and all this is just for revenge. Yotsuya and Takatate ride off on their only horse, while Kamilto gives chase. Yotsuya reunites with the prisoners, safe in the cave. A flashback reveals that soon after Takatate led Kamilto away, Yotsuya knocked out the soldier. Then he has the prisoners remove their clothes and put on fake dolls they made to make it look convincing. While this mission is a success, Takate talks to Yatsuya about the moral dilemma of killing characters, despite the fact that it is just a game. After all that is said, he reminds her that their lives are actually on the line, so they can't afford to worry about it, and it takes precedence over the lives of the characters in the game. While Camilto is lamenting that he has failed his king, suddenly Koval pops up to kill his man. She is here to avenge her man as she slices off his limbs. She changed to a bigger sword before the final decapitation, but he wanted peace. In that case, she'll annihilate his kingdom if that is how peace is going to be achieved. Meanwhile, the king has received word about Camilto's failure, but someone shady disagrees with his suggestion to send a rescue team since it is not worth it. Instead, he suggests preparing to fight the heroes who have become their enemies. As the journey to Rodero continues, Takate notices Koval a bit down. She thinks she is definitely in love with Yatsuya, as the journey will soon come to an end. She thinks a confession is inevitable and is gleefully waiting for that chance to pop up. Drawing inspiration from her favorite dating sim game, however, with all the obvious flags turning up, it seems nothing is happening, and it is understandable why she is so frustrated. Meanwhile, Shindu's side has managed to secure a trader who is making his way to Rodero. They ask to accompany him there, but since he already has a bodyguard who won't yield his position, they fight, and obviously Shindu is much better. One night, as Yatsuya's team is camping, Koval finally makes her move. All she wants is to thank him for helping her avenge her comrade. Takate is so mad. Yatsuya has 3 ideas about the cargo for Rodero. First, let the convicts go to the church. Next, sell the items of the dead enemy soldiers. Lastly, put the severed heads of enemy soldiers in a box and give it to the guards. With that, the mission is clear. So random that even Yatsuya thinks the mission is up to what the game master wants. Just in time, he reunited with Shindu. To clear the other half of the quest, they need to traverse 5% of the map. Considering this is a huge continent, the gang split up to cover more ground. However, at this time of year, it is snowing, and it is going to impede their quest. Before that, Yatsuya says a quick goodbye to Koval. The mission is in jeopardy when they reach 492% of the map. Hakazaki collapses from the cold. Takate is taking shelter and can't move anymore. Hence, falling asleep, Shindu reaches some rock, not sure what she sees in it, feels betrayed, and can't go on. Yatsuya keeps moving at a snail's pace. Then a Cyclops Yeti attacks. He defeats it somehow and realizes it could be a mother because its offspring start crying over its carcass. But Yatsuya can't be hypocritical and care about them. But soon he falls into an abyss and dies. Yatsuya is still alive, so he continues exploring. Until the alert pops up that Hakazaki is dead, this makes Shindu progress further, but little does she know, she was treading through a frozen lake, and as expected, when she reaches the middle, the crack has her submerged in its icy waters. Now Yatsuya has to be careful. He decides to follow a giant earthworm that poops out poo. He gets devoured by a bad worm from tremors. Takate is the only one left. However, she starts to feel relieved. She realizes that this could mean she was just looking for an excuse to give up and doesn't have to push herself further. But Magia Knights, her favorite anime character, pops up before her to lecture her about not giving up. With that, Takate stands up and continues her journey. Suddenly, before her are Katara and a giant Cheshire cat. She is offered a ride, and although this helps in covering the remaining ground, time is running out. Katara is a wind magic user, so she uses the wind spirit to help boost some distance. The quest is cleared when everyone is together, and before them is the game master. Now they have the right to ask a question. Takate asks if this world is a virtual one. Game master replies, "This is a parallel world." He gives a few examples of the decisions they make and actions that have happened or not, each branching into a whole new, different world. So with each new branching, new worlds were created, and it seems the world they are in branched off about 4-6 billion years ago. Hence, Earth is just one of those possibilities. Though the world they are in is parallel, everything is real except the players, who are just virtual. Yatsuya is starting to feel guilty about killing real people. Yatsuya now thinks that despite his hatred for humans, killing one was just enough to make him feel all weird. The girls are worried, as they understand it has a tremendous effect on his psychological being. There's nothing they can do. Suddenly, he receives a message from the game master. He is asked about his real feelings after killing a man. He deleted his message, but when he gets home, a little girl in a straw hat pops up. She would appreciate it if he replied to her message. So basically, he thinks that from their point of view, they are right, but from the enemy's point of view, they think they are right. If he had known the truth, he wouldn't have been killed. Killing was a mistake. The game master wants him to go meet the next player, Keita Torii. At a restaurant, she tells him a few tables over is a drug dealer. Keita and his men, including his brother, will come in to kill him in 20 seconds. Yotsuya is in shock, but when Keita and others come in, Yotsuya instinctively trips them. When they fight him, Yotsuya just doesn't give a damn anymore and beats all of them up. Then the Yakuza boss comes in and is going to shoot Yotsuya. The game master asks if he wants to use a glove. He stopped time and did some magical punches on him. Everyone gets away when the police arrive. Keita beats up his boss because he was trying to shoot Yotsuya in the back. Later, Game Master asks him, now that he has stopped a murder, has his sentiments changed on the killing? Yotsuya answers that he just needs to do what he needs to do. In Taketate's case, having Keita means increasing the success of the quest. This is more evident since, in the last quest, it was Taketate who completed it. As for the value of life, he thinks all stupid humans should just die. The Game Master then asks who he is to decide whose life has more value. Yotsuya considers himself a normal kid with delusions. He knows it is wrong, but who cares, right? He'll fight for the justice he believes in. Thank you for watching till the end, and don't forget to subscribe.